Championship, presented by Intuit TurboTax, kicking off Sunday, 6 Eastern on Fox and the Fox Sports app.
There's going to be nothing more aesthetically pleasing this weekend than the afternoon sun in San Francisco. Those two jerseys, NFC Championship game, cannot wait.
Good stuff. All right, more on that in just a second, but time now for us to go viral. Conor McGregor is getting ready for his UFC fight against Cowboy Cerrone tomorrow. But the stare gets me. But McGregor took some time out of his day to talk to former wideout Chad Johnson about his famous Ocho Cinco nickname.
Ocho Cinco? That's a good name, Ocho Cinco.
It was my jersey number. Right. I got it.
Ocho Cinco was your jersey?
Yeah, 85.
All right, that's
so it said Johnson, but the NFL, they fined me 1 year for playing around. I changed the name on the back before the game started. And the next day they fined me like 40 grand. And I appealed the fine because I didn't wear it. They didn't do it. So in the off season, I changed my name to Ocho Cinco, and they had to put it on the back.
Who's taking it? Johnson's not bad enough. You Johnson.
All marketing. Just marketing.
Yeah, good man. Fair play. Good luck. Thank you. Appreciate that, man.
I'm no Conor McGregor. I'm not a big Conor McGregor fan. I love Chad Johnson. I love him. He has so much fun. He is so interactive with fans of his, like whether from his playing days or now. He seems to really be enjoying his post-playing life. I really like his reinvention because at the end of his career, still a few dark times, if you will. His post-career reinvention's been awesome. I love it.
Yeah, he's there for all the smoke on Twitter, too.
Oh, yeah.
He loves Twitter, but I don't know a player in NFL history that has gone through such lengths to be recognized by their nickname than Chad Ocho Cinco. The guy actually went out there and changed his name to Ocho Cinco.
Just so he could see it on the back of his jersey.
Yeah, well, no, I like it, but that's had he played by him, good marketing move. At one point, he thought he was going to be in the Hall of Fame. Probably not going to be in the Hall of Fame, but a hell of a career. I like him.
Time now for stories to start your morning, sponsored by Sprint. Switch today. So yesterday, Nick, an arrest warrant was issued for Odell Beckham in response to a video showing OBJ slapping the backside of a stadium security guard. Should I use a different word?
No, it's just funny every time I see it.
This following video of OBJ handing out cash to LSU players. Nick, you're laughing. What'd you make of the latest development with OBJ?
Okay. All right, listen. So I've spent a lot of time and cachet, if you will, defending Odell. And yes, obviously, nobody likes this security guard. Everybody knows, had an encounter with it's not a police officer, this is a security guard.
Yeah.
And he's hassling championship players for indoor smoking laws. So, but you've got to set that part aside. Odell, I defended you, man, on the handing out the money, and I will still defend you on the handing out the money. But all the other videos that have now come out of how you were acting at this championship game are not really that defensible, and this is just idiotic. Now, do I think it's arrestable? I guess in Louisiana it is, but you can't act like the security guard just kicked a game-winning field goal and slap him on the butt. You can't. You've got, and Canty, here's the part, and I tell Odell this when I see him. You're the grown-up in the room, and of all the people in that locker room, all the 18 to 22-year-olds, you're the one acting the most a fool. That's not good. It's not a good look, and it puts your buddy Nick Wright in a terrible spot because I spent all day yesterday saying, oh, you know, he didn't get arrested like Julian Edelman, and the moment I get off the show, Odell's been arrested for smacking the butt of a security guard.
That's why you really have an issue with it, though.
You really put me in a bad way.
You put me in a bad spot. Exactly. But listen, man, I think this is much ado about nothing. Everybody knows that Odell's behavior is unacceptable. He shouldn't have slapped the security officer on the backside. But does it rise to the level where you really need to issue an arrest warrant?
When I thought it was a cop,
that part bothers me.
When the initial reports were it was a police officer, then you listen. You put your hand on a cop in any way, you're going to get arrested.
Sure.
So a rent-a-cop.
On to the Dallas Cowboys now. The newly hired Mike McCarthy.
He's hassling these guys. They're smoking cigars. Joe Burrow's allowed to smoke a cigar in peace.
It's a fire hazard, you guys.
Oh, it's a fire hazard.
Retained offensive coordinator Kellen Moore will continue to call plays next season. That according to Mike McCarthy. Dallas led the NFL in yards in 2019. Kenny, you like this for the Cowboys? Kellen Moore still calling plays?
No, I don't like it, Jenna, because I feel like this is the owner, Jerry Jones, overstepping once again. You got a new head coach, but it's the same old Jerry. In fact, you know Mike McCarthy would probably prefer to have the opportunity to call plays, but Kellen Moore was retained on the staff, and the fact that he's going to be the play caller, to me, this has Jerry Jones' fingerprints all over it. And again, you can't undermine your head coach, especially when you're a team that has championship aspirations.
I agree with you, it has Jerry Jones' fingerprints written all over it. But don't you think this came up in the interview process? Don't you think Mike McCarthy took the job knowing that this was a prerequisite? Because I do. I don't think he sprung it on him at the end. And if that is the case, then McCarthy signed up for it, so I can't take big issue with it.
Well, whether McCarthy signed up for it or not, the result is the same. I don't care about it. I mean, if Mike McCarthy wants to call plays and you think that he's the guy to take your team to a Super Bowl, then give him the autonomy to handle his staff the way that he wants.
I think Jerry thinks Kellen's his next Jason Garrett, but the problem is, do you want the next Jason Garrett?
That didn't work out the last time when Wade Phillips was the head coach and Jason Garrett was the OC.
Unbelievable.
All right, on to the Packers and 49ers now in the NFC Championship on Sunday on Fox. When these teams faced off back in Week 12, it was no contest. San Francisco took the lopsided win. Aaron Rodgers had a game to forget by all accounts, but he says he's using what happened then as motivation now.
You know, I think if you look at this game, they're definitely favored by, what, 7.5 halftime, is that right? So they're, you know, obviously expected to hold court and win, and people know and are talking about how we played the last time. So I think if you look at pressure, the pressure's in a certain place, and we should be nice and loose.
Well, easier said than done. Do you agree with Aaron Rodgers? The pressure is with the other guys?
I think the pressure's with the 49ers, but I think there's very unique pressure on Rodgers. I think there's very unique pressure on Rodgers because...
Rodgers himself.
Yes, yeah. I think team-wise, way more pressure on the Niners. They've been the better team. They already beat them. They're at home. They're favored. Individually, there is more pressure on Aaron Rodgers than there is anyone else involved in this football game. Any coach, any other player, because he's the oldest person involved of any that has any real account for the game, and he is the one with the biggest legacy. And that's how this always works, is that the guys who have been the best have the most pressure on them to continue being the best, and the guys who have the most to gain have the most pressure. I think Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, Jimmy Garoppolo, the kind of triumvirate in San Francisco, rightfully believe we should win this game. We should go to the Super Bowl. We should maybe even win the Super Bowl. But if we don't, we're going to be right back around here next year. This is we have been building towards this year. This is the first year in our window. I think Aaron Rodgers probably looks at it as, man, I'm going to be 37 next season. Last year, I got hurt the first week of the year, played through it, but it clearly hampered my play. The year before that, Anthony Barr lands on me, snaps my collarbone. The year is ruined. A few years before that, I get my collarbone broken, and even though he came back and they made the playoffs, I think he knows, man, if I don't cash in on this opportunity, how many more opportunities am I going to have? So I think there is and he also knows, Canty, the Niners have a lot of ways to win. Green Bay's got one. I've got to be sensational. I have to avoid the rush. I have to hit every open receiver and a bunch of not open receivers. So I think there is unique pressure on Rodgers individually, even if the overall pressure's on the favored home team #1 seed.
Yeah, there's pressure on both sides, albeit it's very different. For Aaron Rodgers, he's trying to get back to the big game, and you recognize that this might be his last best chance in order to get that done. You're a 13-win team for a reason. You look at the offense and you look at the skill positions that they've tried to surround him with. I think he's probably got one of the better supporting casts that he's had this decade, because you got a 1,000-yard rusher in Aaron Jones, and you still have Devontae Adams, who is a bona fide #1 receiver. And then, of course, defensively, even though they're not great, they do have the ability to be disruptive and pressure the opposing quarterback. So I do think things are set up for Aaron Rodgers to be able to have success, and I think that Aaron Rodgers is equipped to be able to handle the pressure, knowing that this is one of the better teams that he's had around him this entire decade. Now, when you look at the 49ers, that to me is the biggest question. how do they deal with the pressure? Because this is a young team. This is their first rodeo in being in a championship game atmosphere. And I don't think you can prepare for the intensity, the overall nerves, the anxiety that you're going to feel when you go out there and you take that field. So I wonder how Kyle Shanahan is going to get his team settled down in this game early. More importantly, I wonder how he's going to get his quarterback settled down early, because we all talked about it. The only question mark about this San Francisco 49ers team is whether or not you can trust the quarterback. It's a championship roster when you look at all the other position groups.
And it feels like for the Packers, the only area that's not a question mark is the quarterback position. You almost have this feel like the game means more for Aaron Rodgers himself than it does for the Green Bay Packers, just because of where he came from and what lies in front of him.
Yes, this is the same thing with LeBron. Like with before he got to the Lakers. Lakers, different story kind of. But with the finals against the Warriors, where it was the Warriors against LeBron. It was a referendum on him. It wasn't a referendum on the Cavs. And I understand the Packers are a historic organization, but they don't have any historic players or coaches on that team other than Aaron. They have some good players, and Matt LaFleur might turn into a historic coach. Who knows? Win Super Bowl your first year. It's a hell of a start. but Aaron's got so much to gain here. In that, I was discussing earlier, one of only 4 quarterbacks ever with a 100 passer rating or above in the postseason. The other guys are Bart Starr, Kurt Warner, who made the Hall of Fame based on his postseason resume almost alone. No one won a couple league MVPs to go along with it. And surprisingly, Matt Ryan, who's been really good in the postseason, people forget about it. But Aaron, if they win the next 2 games, jumps a tier in my own make-believe, but I think it's the right one, quarterback pyramid. I mean, Aaron goes from the level where he is no question from there on better than Favre. I think he already is if you were to rank him 1 through 8. But this is of the last 50 years. And then you start having, to me, a real Aaron Rodgers, Peyton Manning conversation. Because Peyton Manning, while he had way more regular season records, almost all the regular season records, Peyton Manning's passer rating dropped to the mid-80s in the postseason for his career. It took him until year 6 before he had a single good postseason game, not postseason run. The year they won the Super Bowl, his first Super Bowl, his only Super Bowl in Indy, he threw more interceptions than touchdowns. He was just so good for so long.